Welcome to the Serie A season review as we relive a thrilling 2023-24 campaign. After ending a 33-year wait for another domestic title, Napoli were the reigning champions and proudly wore the Scudetto on their shirt. But how would the Azzurri fare following the departures of Kim on the pitch and Luciano Spalletti off it? Despite finishing a whopping 18 points behind Napoli, Inter had hinted at their potential by reaching the Champions League final. And big things were expected of Simone Inzaghi's side following a summer rebuild. Also chief among the candidates for the league title were Juventus, as they looked to harness the experience of head coach Massimiliano Allegri while benefiting from a lighter schedule, having failed to qualify for Europe. Finally, Milan were not to be discounted either, and like cross-city rivals Inter, the Rossoneri were also bidding for a 20th Scudetto, and with it an iconic second star on their shirts. The race for Europe would have its usual twists and turns in a season where icons left and heroes returned. As ever, only 3 teams would be relegated, but at one time or another, as many as 8 sides were sweating over their top-flight status in another exhilarating season in Serie A.
Inter immediately established their title credentials by beginning the season with 3 straight wins.
Lautaro Martinez! A devastating performance.
Only to then produce the mother of all statement victories in the derby.
Marcus Thuram marks his first derby della Madonnina with a goal to savour.
As the Nerazzurri routed Milan for a 5th straight win in the Derby della Madonnina across all competitions.
Is this goal number 5 for Inter? Mkhitaryan, Fratesi! His first for Inter comes in the derby.
However, just when it appeared the Nerazzurri were unstoppable, they ground to a halt at home. When Sassuolo's star player was left to his own devices.
Domenico Berardi just continues to dazzle.
Although the Inter skipper was in the form of his life,
Lautaro Martinez! Double figures in just 8 league matches.
their defence was left bamboozled by a zigzagging run from a rising star.
Ziggs there, this could be brilliant! And Bologna have a second goal!
And Bologna emerged as a force to be reckoned with, battling back from 2-0 down at the Miazza to earn a point. Despite dropping 5 points across 2 straight home games, Inter was still where they expected to be come their crunch match against the old enemy.
Juventus and Inter, Italy's two most successful sides domestically, are back where their history and prestige demand them to be. The top two and going head-to-head in a title race.
Juventus began the game 2 points behind Inter and were heading top of the table.
And Vlahovic buries it! And it's the Bianconeri who lead against Inter.
But that goal was like a red rag to a bull.
Thuram with the ball in, Lautaro Martinez! And it's now the Inter front two who combine. The league's top scorer has another goal. It's his first in Turin.
Juventus had kept pace with the Nerazzurri ahead of their stalemate in round 13, thanks to a 5-match winning streak, beginning with the Derby della Mole and culminating in their 2-1 home win over Cagliari in matchday 12. The man who opened the scoring was Juventus defender Bremer.
Eu treinei bastante isso no Torino, né? Para fazer gol, cabeceio, essas coisas. Às vezes a bola me procura.
Kostic crosses in. Bremer wide open.
While goal scoring was a bonus, 4 clean sheets in that 5-match winning run showed that Bremer was very accomplished in doing his primary job, keeping opposition players out. And the former Torino man welcomed comparisons with the Juventus defensive icon.
Quando eu trabalhei com o Mazzarri no Torino, ele sempre falava, pô, você aparece um pouco com o Chiellini. Aí eu comecei a estudar ele. Então, para mim, são um dos melhores zagueiros. O Chiellini, defensivamente, é um dos melhores.
Daniele Rugani forces it across the line. 2 defenders on target for Max Allegri.
But Allegri's critics claimed Juventus's form was unsustainable, pointing to a series of sliding doors moments and cliffhanger endings.
Off the post and then bundled in from close range by Andrea Cambiaso. Juve with the last kick of the match. Fino alla fine, right until the very end.
Inter followed that draw in the Derby d'Italia with a run of 4 straight wins of their own. First up, the dismantling of the reigning champions in their own backyard.
Çalhanoğlu! What a glorious finish! Inter reaffirm their title credentials with a stunner. And what a chance for Barella, that is absolutely fabulous! Team in orange playing total football.
Inter would drop points in their final game of 2023 as Genoa possessed the tools to stop their clockwork calcio.
It's in from Dragusin. Their Romanian colossus hammers in the equaliser.
Curiously, Juventus had also drawn at the same venue in round 16. They would still, however, end the year just 2 points behind Inter, thanks to their ability to hold their nerve in the big matches. Edging out Napoli and Roma by the slimmest of margins in December.
And Adrien Rabiot is in here! And that is a big goal for the Bianconeri.
But what of the other giants in the Italian game? Given we left Milan at their lowest ebb after their 5-1 humbling in the derby, you'd be forgiven for thinking that Rossoneri would struggle at the start of the season. Yet you'd be mistaken. Stefano Pioli's men won their first 3 matches, all against teams that would end the campaign in the top half. And the Rossoneri made light of their defeat to Inter in matchday 4 to win their next 4.
In it goes Okafor.
That left Milan 2 points ahead of Inter, courtesy of 7 wins from their first 8. The Rossoneri had recruited heavily during the summer, and their marquee signing Christian Pulisic was particularly impressed with Milan's passionate fan base.
Of course, it's a historic, legendary club with many amazing players. Of course, you hear about the fans. I played here before. It was a great, great atmosphere. So I was expecting good things, but to be honest, I've really been blown away with just the support from the fans, from the club.
And Pulisic had swiftly made himself right at home.
And there is Pulisic. San Siro welcomes a new hero.
And the first one in San Siro was incredible. Just in front of the home fans to feel the celebrations and see the passion of all the fans and hear them yell your name. It's of course a special feeling.
Milan's form dropped off in late October when home matches against Juventus and Udinese ended in defeat.
Udinese claim their first victory of the Serie A season.
While draws in Naples and Lecce felt like losses.
Napoli are level from 2-0 down to 2 apiece.
As the Rossoneri twice frittered away healthy leads.
And now Lamek Banda! Lecce have astonishingly overturned a 2-goal deficit.
That run of just 2 points in 4 matches dealt a heavy blow to Milan's chances of keeping pace with Inter, when they fell 8 points behind their city rivals after just a dozen matches. Although Napoli had shown the spirit of champions in round 10 to claim a point against Milan, that reaction proved to be the exception rather than the rule for Rudi Garcia's side, who lost costly matches at the Maradona to rivals Lazio in September and Fiorentina in October.
Napoli's title defence suffers another setback.
And in November, with the previous season's top scorer Victor Osimhen watching on from the stands, history would remember another Victor, Kovalenko.
Can Empoli get a last-minute goal? Yes, they can!
As the man whose goal cost Rudi Garcia his job.
There seemed to be plenty of job security in the capital, after Jose Mourinho had taken Roma to a second consecutive European final. And Maurizio Sarri had led Lazio to second place in Serie A, their highest league finish since the year 2000. But there would be vacancies in the Eternal City before the season was out. Mourinho's huge trophy haul in the game had been built on defensive solidity. So it was more than a little concerning when the giallorossi conceded twice.
Oh my word! Antonio Candreva!
In each of their first 3 matches.
Give Olivier Giroud a chance from the penalty spot, and he will take the opportunity with both hands.
And by the time Roma had been scorched by Genoa, they had just 5 points from 6 games to begin the campaign. Mourinho had enough credit in the bank with the fan base to see him through a rough patch, provided, of course, he could win the big one.
The fiercest rivalry in the Italian game and one of the tastiest derbies in world football. This is always the fixture that matters most in the Eternal City.
November's goalless draw wasn't only a derby to forget, it was also the 3rd straight match in which Roma had failed to score against Lazio. And that sequence would stretch to 4 when the Biancocelesti dumped the giallorossi out of the cup in January. That marked Mourinho's penultimate match in charge.
Giroud, lovely touch. Theo Hernandez stands up and delivers.
Given that he was fired after a loss at Milan in Roma's following game. Much like Roma, Lazio also fell to newly promoted Genoa. And when they were beaten by Milan on the final day of September,
Reinders, Rafael Leao, and now Pulisic. Brilliant goal from Milan.
they had already lost 4 of their first 7 matches. 3 straight wins
Vecino!
suggested Sarri's side had settled.
Immobile to take all 3 points. Buries it.
But that trio of victories was nothing but a false dawn.
Rolled through! Lewis Ferguson, what a start to the second half!
Lazio took just 1 point from 9 after that, as they handed Salernitana their first victory of the season in round 13.
Antonio Candreva goes for goal! It simply had to be the former Lazio man!
However, it wouldn't be until a home defeat to Udinese in March, their 3rd consecutive reverse, that Sarri decided to jump before he was pushed.
A horrid week becomes even worse for Lazio. 12th defeat of the season for them.
Bologna are one of the most storied clubs in the Italian game, but the 7-time Scudetto winners hadn't had much to shout about in recent times, with the last of their league titles coming way back in the 60s. Enter Thiago Motta. The former Inter and Italy midfielder had shown flashes of promise during coaching spells with Genoa and Spezia. Yet while those two clubs' ambitions were limited to staying in Serie A, Bologna boasted loftier goals. However, few had the rossoblù in the mix for European football, particularly following a summer which saw so many players leave the club. From established personnel in the shape of Gary Medel, Nicola Sansone and Roberto Soriano, to exciting prospects Moussa Barrow, Nico Dominguez and Jordi Schouten, Bologna appeared weaker after a spate of della departures, amid a tough early season fixture list featuring matches against Milan and Juventus. But sporting director Marco Di Vaio and his team knew exactly what they were doing. Bologna certainly recruited well, adding players with previous Serie A experience and European pedigree to a squad full of youngsters ready to take their game to the next level. Yet one signing above all highlighted not only Bologna's eye for talent, but also Thiago Motta's ability to develop players, as he polished a once promising left-back into one of the league's best central defenders.
Lui giocava ad un livello e aveva un livello di intelligenza sopra la media, ma di tanto. Sicuramente mi ha cambiato un po' il modo di giocare, perché io mi sono sempre reputato un giocatore come atleta, sono sempre stato forte, però non così pensante. Quindi lui mi ha aiutato un po' a capire, cioè adesso mi rendo conto che leggo meglio le partite, riesco a capire i momenti e questo è quello che dice, penso. Poi sul fatto di trascinare gli altri, invece quella è una cosa che ho sempre avuto, questo fatto che si vede anche dall'esterno, la mia voglia, la mia volontà di andare su ogni pallone, e questo penso lo sentono tanti compagni, perché non sono uno che parla troppo, però mi faccio capire così sul campo.
Bologna's stunning season was built on a miserly defence, but they took a few weeks to hit their stride.
Lovumba! Cagliari get their first goal of the season.
And the rossoblù needed a late winner in matchday 3 to see off newly promoted Cagliari.
And it's in the back of the net. Giovanni Fabian.
3 straight clean sheets, the other side of the September international break, showed Bologna were a tough nut to crack. But a failure to score in any of those matches proved their Achilles heel. From a trio of goalless draws to a treble from Riccardo Orsolini. The winger bared his teeth against Empoli with a superb hat-trick.
Orsolini seals the win in added time, and he takes home the match ball too.
After that star turn at Inter, Zirkzee began to shine on a consistent basis.
Zirkzee, great touch, and this could be a splendid opening goal.
And the della became a fortress, playing host to wins over Lazio,
Lewis Ferguson, Lazio napping, and Bologna make them pay.
Roma,
Moro! And it's advantage Thiago Motta and Bologna in the race for European football.
and Atalanta, to leave Bologna in the Champions League places in late December.
After the break, 18 rounds of Serie A had been played by the end of 2023, so the halfway stage fell in early January. Inter showed that Juventus didn't hold the monopoly on late drama.
And there is the winning goal! Davide Frattesi, Inter show the champion spirit. 2024 starts with a bang!
But the Nerazzurri only achieved their goal of becoming winter champions after Verona failed to hit the target from 12 yards.
Henry from the spot, hits the post and then headed wide.
That left Juventus 5 points behind Inter when they visited Salerno. They were struggling at the Arecchi until Iling Jr. equalised, setting the stage for one of the team's senior players to haul the Bianconeri over the line.
Danilo swings it in towards Vlahovic! In the first minute of added time!
That Vlahovic-inspired victory was game 3 of a 5-match winning streak.
And everything is right in the world, Inter in at the moment.
During which Massimiliano Allegri's side proved they were also capable of comfortable wins.
Cambiaso for Vlahovic, yes! He's done it again!
And with Inter busy in Saudi Arabia winning the Super Cup, Juventus won at Lecce to move top of Serie A. It was nip and tuck in the title race until Milik had a nibble at Cherry.
And Juventus, with just 17 minutes on the clock, are down to 10 men.
And the short-staffed Bianconeri could only draw at home to Empoli. That left Inter just 2 points behind Juventus ahead of their match in Florence, with 2 games in hand. There would be no favours for Juve from Fiorentina, however, after Nico Gonzalez fluffed the chance to cancel out Lautaro Martinez's opener when the evergreen Jan Sommer showed he was a man for all seasons.
Inter get the job done in Florence. They're heading top of the table by a point with a game in hand ahead of the Derby d'Italia. Inter are playing the club's best football in a generation, but despite an incredible haul of 54 points from 21 games, the league leaders are still only 1 clear of eternal rivals Juventus. Allegri has made the Bianconeri competitive again, and however much he plays down his side's title chances, the result tonight at San Siro will have a significant say in where the Scudetto ends up come May.
The best teams always find a way to win, even if that means winning ugly.
Barella's ball in, Pavard, he missed it, but it's in! A scrappy goal, but at this stage, they all matter so much for Inter, and they lead in the Derby d'Italia. Inter are the force in Serie A. The Nerazzurri go 4 points clear at the Serie A summit. They still have a game in hand, and this could be the night when they took a big step towards the Scudetto, a big stride towards the second star on their shirt.
Lautaro was the man who would ultimately put pay to Juventus's title hopes.
Samogic curled in, flicked on, and then poked in from close range.
But not the one you'd think.
Lautaro Giannetti, just his second ever match in Udinese colours.
2 more points went awry in Verona. A 4th straight match without a win, as February proved fatal to the Bianconeri's Scudetto bid.
Momentum is massive in football, and so it proved for Inter, who made the most of Frattesi's late goal against Verona to go on another lengthy winning run. That was match 1 in a sequence which would eventually stretch to 10 games, right up until the March international break, as the Nerazzurri showcased their full repertoire. Inter flexed their muscle at U-Power Stadium.
Çalhanoğlu delivers the 3rd goal.
With their 3 top scorers, sharing 5 goals amongst themselves in a rout of Monza.
Marcus Thuram inflicts Monza's biggest ever home defeat in Serie A.
In fact, 4-goal winning margins were being made to look like standard practice when Salernitana...
And that's now 20 goals in Serie A for Lautaro Martinez this season, and 5 of them have come against Salernitana.
Lecce.
After a 4-0 win over Salernitana, the Nerazzurri put 4 past Lecce without reply.
And Atalanta were all humbled by Simone Inzaghi's men.
Alexis Sanchez for Frattesi, and for the 4th game running in Serie A, Inter score 4.
Not that they couldn't dig in, too. For all the glitz and glamour, there was a good portion of grit as well. And it was the Nerazzurri's ability to keep clean sheets that enabled them to win in Florence and Bologna, as well as toppling Juventus, their then nearest challengers. So by the time an Inter old boy ended their winning run in mid-March...
And it's there! Juan Jesus, the former Inter defender, draws Napoli level on the 81st minute. And for the first time this season, the Nerazzurri have conceded in the final 15 minutes of play.
The leaders had amassed a huge 14-point cushion over the side in second, which had since become Milan after Juventus's form had dropped off dramatically. Rival supporters always have one eye on when Derby Day comes around, but Inter fans' interest peaked as the stars began to align in their quest for a 20th Scudetto. Provided they could maintain their 14-point advantage over the rossoneri, the Nerazzurri knew that victory in the Derby della Madonnina in round 33 would seal the title, and with it a second star at the expense of their rivals. Milan did their bit by winning both of their matches upon their return to league action in April.
Rafael Leao goes all the way and adds Milan second.
But it looked like Inter were going to have to wait when they fell behind at Udinese. Only a win in Friuli would keep alive Inter's chances of claiming the ultimate bragging rights. So Simone Inzaghi turned to his late goal specialist.
Lautaro Martinez! And surely for Fratesi! Just like in January against Verona, Davide Fratesi comes up with a match-winning moment. And Inter are now within 2 wins of the Scudetto.
Set pieces had been one of Inter's trump cards all season, and the Nerazzurri had another ace up their sleeve early on in the derby.
Francesco Acerbi moves the Nerazzurri to within sight of that second star.
Before Thuram made his mark again.
Marcus Thuram with another beauty in the Derby della Madonnina. Call the tailor and start preparing the gold stitching.
The tailor was starting to feel hot under the collar once Tomori put Milan back into the thick of things.
And perhaps this is not the night when Inter win the Scudetto.
But the rossoneri would ultimately be forced to wear seconds.
Inter are champions. Inter win the derby. Inter win the Scudetto. Number 20 is no longer a dream. It's a reality now.
As this season's colours were unquestionably black and blue, with a gold trim.
The media spent much of the season speculating about upcoming coaching vacancies at some of Italy's biggest clubs. While the likes of Milan, Torino and Fiorentina were reportedly planning to wait until the summer to act, other top sides had moved sooner, albeit with mixed results. There have been big improvements in the capital, where Daniele De Rossi hit the ground running as Roma boss.
And now Lukaku! The Belgian gets the first goal of the Daniele De Rossi era.
So too did Igor Tudor at Lazio.
Guendouzi. Still Guendouzi. There's Marusic! With the winner for Igor Tudor in his first match in charge.
And with 2 new men contesting the grudge match at the Olimpico, it was the Roma coach who claimed the spoils in his first Derby della Capitale in the dugout.
Dybala with the corner, Mancini! Roma lead, and it's one of their stalwarts with the goal.
That derby win was De Rossi's 11th league game in charge, and his impact had been immediate. 26 points from a possible 33 in that stretch, which featured just 1 defeat. And even then...
El Shaarawy off the bar, it's in! A magnificent goal as Roma have turned it around here against the league leaders.
They gave Inter an almighty fright.
Darmian in, and it's Marcus Thuram, the winning goal at San Siro, and the crucial leveller here just after the break. Alessandro Bastoni ends Daniele De Rossi's honeymoon with the 4th goal here for Inter.
Tudor's Lazio would bounce back from their derby loss in round 31.
Isaacson seals the win.
With 3 straight victories to put them back in the European conversation.
Lazio's flying winger swoops in and could well have got the winning goal.
Coaching changes often prompt an upturn in fortunes, and that appeared to be ringing true further south, when Walter Mazzarri began his 2nd spell at the Napoli helm with a bold display in Bergamo. But the champion's new coach soon came crashing down to earth at one of his other former clubs.
And it just gets better and better for Torino. It's the local lads with a goal to make it Torino 3, Napoli 0.
Mazzarri had been clinging on to his job, but despite a goal from Cyril Ngonge, Walter was a goner. Ultimately, he would take just 15 points from a dozen league matches, 6 fewer than the man he was brought in to replace, Rudy Garcia, had managed from his 12 games in Serie A. That left Napoli to see out the campaign with another familiar face, at least to their most passionate supporters. Francesco Calzona had impressed as a member of backroom staff under Napoli icons Maurizio Sarri and Luciano Spalletti, and he was parachuted into the top job in Naples after his employers, the Slovakian FA, agreed that he could split his time between international football and the club game. Calzona's task was to get the band back together, and the champions' dynamic duo,
Victor Osimhen, is gifted his first hat-trick of the season.
Immediately proved they were no one-hit wonders. Yet despite one last encore of their favourite tune,
Kvaratskhelia! It's him! It's so often him! Kvicha Kvaratskhelia, days on from his brace in Reggio Emilia, scores again for Napoli against Juventus.
critics were having none of their 2nd album. Come the final weekend of the campaign, there was still one relegation place to be determined, and 3 teams desperate to avoid finishing 18th. Verona had once again been among the teams being touted for relegation back in August, along with newly promoted trio Frosinone, Genoa and Cagliari. They might have finished as runners-up behind Frosinone in the 2nd tier, but Genoa proved they were the team best equipped to cope with the demands of Serie A, as Alberto Gilardino built on his promising reputation to produce a controlled brand of football based on solid foundations and brought to life by the flair of Albert Gudmundsson.
Gudmundsson curls it in, and he goes all the way through.
The Grifone would eventually finish 11th in Serie A, a region of the table they had occupied for the majority of 2024. Cagliari made a wretched start to the season, taking just 3 points from their winless first 9 matches. A sequence in which they found the net just 5 times. And it appeared that legendary coach Claudio Ranieri was set to be dismissed on match day 10 when his side trailed 3-0 at home to fellow strugglers Frosinone. Incredibly, having scored just 5 times in nearly 15 hours of play, the Sardinians then struck 4 in the craziest 24 minutes of the season to record their first victory of the campaign.
And Pavoletti! And in the space of 20 minutes, Cagliari have scored 4 to turn the game on its head.
Still, Ranieri couldn't just click his fingers and get results, and the veteran even offered to resign. After a 3-1 home loss in early February made it 4 defeats on the bounce for the Rossoblu, leaving them second bottom after 24 matches. But belief from senior players, led by captain Leonardo Pavoletti, allied to the impact of some intelligent January acquisitions.
This is Gianluca Gaetano. Can he finish?
Inspired Cagliari to some eye-catching results. And their place in Serie A would be sealed with a week to spare via victory at Sassuolo.
Prati has scored the goal that means Cagliari cement their place in next season's Serie A,
allowing Ranieri to end his career at Unipol Domus in style. Although Verona's Marco Baroni won his first 2 games in charge, the Giallo-Blu predictably sat in the bottom 3 at the halfway stage, when the first team was essentially dismantled, as a series of senior players and first-team regulars left Verona to join a number of Serie A rivals. Marco Baroni didn't panic though, turning to someone borrowed.
Voloruncio! And it's crept in!
And someone new.
Twederski!
The latter a January signing like the prolific Tijani Noslin. And they all pitched in as part of a series of narrow wins. Verona became officially safe after victory at Salernitana on the penultimate weekend of the season.
Suslov! And that goal has Verona on course to stay in the division.
Lecce went from being the league's surprise package, following 11 points from 15 to begin the season, to Serie A's sinking stone when they went hurtling down the table. And the side from Salento were just 1 point above the bottom 3 after a home defeat to Verona in matchday 28. The pressure told on Lecce coach Roberto D'Aversa, who, having lost the match, then lost his cool and would end up losing his job. In came the experienced Luca Gotti, and a combination of a steady hand and a number of clean sheets enabled Lecce to survive with a bit to spare. There would, of course, be casualties in the relegation battle. After 2 exhilarating great escapes, it was third time unlucky for Salernitana, when their recruitment policy failed in terms of the playing staff, and 4 different coaches, including Paolo Sousa, Filippo Inzaghi and Stefano Colantuono, were all unable to prevent the Granata from giving up goals galore. A leaky back line was something Salernitana had in common with Sassuolo, whose 11-year stay in the top flight also came to an end, when the Nero-Verdi's talisman Domenico Berardi missed much of 2024 through injury, and there was no one there to pick up the slack. So, come the final weekend of the season, any one of Empoli, Frosinone and Udinese could still be relegated. Empoli started matchday 38 in the bottom 3. The permutations were complex due to Frosinone facing Udinese on the final day.
At the start of play, both Frosinone and Udinese are out of the bottom 3 and safe from relegation. But anything could happen over the course of the next 90 minutes. If Frosinone avoid defeat, they will avoid relegation. Udinese need to win tonight to be absolutely certain of their place in the top flight. But if Empoli lose to Roma, both Frosinone and Udinese will stay in Serie A, whatever the outcome at the Stirpe tonight.
Empoli had the tougher assignment on paper at home to Roma. Their coach, Davide Nicola, had earned the reputation as a survival specialist. But for his team to beat the drop, they needed to defeat Roma. So an early goal was just what the doctor ordered.
Empoli lead. Cancellieri scores the goal that for now keeps Empoli in Serie A.
Empoli's lead meant they were back outside the drop zone, leaving Udinese in the bottom three. But far from fighting fire with fire, Fabio Cannavaro's side was struggling to snuff out Frosinone's attacking threat. And only some Maduka magic, along with some good fortune,
this time Okoye needed a helping hand from the frame of the goal,
allowed the Friulani to go in at the break with the scoreline goalless. Just then, good news filtered through from the Castellani.
Dangerous this by Roma, and Aouar this time heads it home.
So, after 45 minutes, it was as you were in the race to avoid relegation. Udinese knew they were at the mercy of Empoli scoring again, hence their eagerness to take charge of their own fate.
Davis! It's his first Udinese goal! With 15 minutes to play, Udinese are holding up their end of the bargain.
The shoe was now on the other foot for Frosinone. Despite trailing to Udinese, the giallo-azzurri was still the right side of the line, unless Empoli could find a winner against Roma. And just when it seemed the result at the Stirpe would leave both Frosinone and Udinese happy...
And there is a goal at the Castellani.
Through to Cancellieri. Now Nyong. And Nyong has scored what is surely the winner! Survival is in reach now!
So, against all odds, Empoli secured the victory they needed to remain in Serie A. While Udinese extended their top-flight stay to 30 years, courtesy of their win at Frosinone. The giallo-azzurri's third-ever season in Serie A ended the same way as the previous two, with relegation, albeit in heartbreaking fashion.
Although he had won the Scudetto 6 times earlier in his illustrious career, Allegri was unable to take the title race the full distance, as Juventus recorded a paltry 25 points from 19 matches in the second half of the season. Allegri was a big advocate of the Bianconeri motto, "Winning isn't important, it's the only thing that matters." Yet, in the absence of the Scudetto for a third straight year in his second spell, Juventus would be judged on style, with no substance to fall back on. And it appeared that Allegri's brand of football was not to the taste of Juventus football director Cristiano Giuntoli. Although the Bianconeri would finish third, 23 points behind champions Inter, Allegri had the last laugh of sorts as he collected the 5th Coppa Italia of his career, a record, and fulfilled his target of re-establishing the club in the Champions League. Ironically, Allegri was dismissed after securing silverware when his touchline behaviour left him severely exposed. Elsewhere, Stefano Pioli was also moving on despite a top 4 finish. However, the Milan head coach would at least have the opportunity to bid farewell properly at San Siro. The Rossoneri ended the season as runners-up, but Pioli had been branded by 6 consecutive derby defeats to rivals Inter, culminating in the Nerazzurri's 20th Scudetto, an unforgivable loss in the eyes of the Milan fan base. All in all, Pioli's 4.5 years at the Rossoneri helm were very positive, as he first returned the club to their natural habitat of the Champions League, before winning the Scudetto in 2022, a feat he himself described as ahead of schedule. That title had been sealed by the goals of Olivier Giroud, who also left the club at the end of the 2023-24 campaign, following 3 goal-laden seasons in the autumn of his glorious career.
Olivier Giroud! Big player, scores big goals at big times.
Bologna had exceeded expectations by ending 2023 in the top 5. But a shock January defeat in Sardinia then gave way to a sequence of 19 points from a possible 21.
Zirkzee! Thiago Motta celebrates, and Bologna might be on course for only a second away win in Serie A this season.
Which featured victories at Lazio and Atalanta.
Driven by Ferguson, Bologna's captain stands tallest to deliver a dagger blow.
The only team who could stop Bologna were, unsurprisingly, Inter. But Thiago Motta's men quickly rediscovered their winning touch.
And this is Salamakers!
Landing a significant blow to fellow Champions League chasers Roma.
Oh my word! This is a special game, and that is a special goal. Oussama El Azouzi.
And by the time the Rossoblù had won in Naples in matchday 36,
Stefan Posch has scored a goal that might see Bologna mixing it with Europe's elite.
a return to Europe's top table became official after nearly 6 decades away. Atalanta would become Italy's 5th qualifier for the Champions League, and Alle were actually eligible twice over. Gianpiero Gasperini guided his team to 4th place in Serie A, but the real story of Atalanta's season was their triumph in the UEFA Europa League. A hat-trick from striker Ademola Lookman helped put Bergamo on the footballing map, as Alle dispatched Bundesliga champions Bayer Leverkusen, the only defeat the German side would suffer all season. Atalanta would also reach a 3rd Coppa Italia final in 8 years under Gasperini. Yet, once again, they came up just short in the domestic cup. Their ability to thrive on 3 fronts owed a great deal to their attacking firepower. From Gianluca Scamacca back to his prolific best after a brief stint in England,
a chance out of nowhere has been pounced upon by the potent Gianluca Scamacca.
to Charles de Ketelare on loan from Milan and with a point to prove.
De Ketelare, instant impact.
And a breakout season from goal-scoring midfielder turned Cope Miners.
Pasalic for Cope Miners. It's a beautifully worked free kick.
Atalanta played some heavenly football. Two of Italy's biggest clubs would therefore miss out on the Champions League. Roma improved under Daniele De Rossi, but ultimately finished in 6th place on 63 points. Eerily, the exact same position and points tally they had managed in the previous 2 seasons. The Giallorossis' push for a seat at Europe's top table had been undermined by costly defeats in 6-pointers against Bologna and at Atalanta. Roma would be joined in the Europa League by rivals Lazio, who finished the season strongly and showed plenty of potential, ahead of Igor Tudor's first full season in charge. Fiorentina sewed up 8th position, which guaranteed they would be playing in the Conference League for the 3rd straight season. But just like a year earlier, the Viola went agonisingly close to lifting silverware, only to fall at the final hurdle.
Given how dominant Inter were en route to the Scudetto, it was no surprise to see the Nerazzurri monopolise the individual awards in Serie A. Alessandro Bastoni was named Defender of the Year for his role in Simone Inzaghi's side, keeping 21 clean sheets, as the Nerazzurri conceded just 22 goals all season. For the 4th year running, Inter also boasted the league's best midfielder, when Hakan Çalhanoğlu followed in the footsteps of previous winners Marcelo Brozovic and Niccolò Barella. The Turkish star scored a whopping 13 goals from midfield, proving he was far more than just a penalty specialist. Elsewhere, the numbers showed there was no better goalkeeper in Serie A than Monza's Michele Di Gregorio, who starred for the 2nd straight year between the sticks for the Brianzoli. and attracted interest from bigger clubs. 16 goals were enough to earn Juventus's Dusan Vlahovic the gong as striker of the season. The Best Under-23 Player award went to Bologna's Joshua Zirkzee, as his 11 goals and 4 assists inspired the Rossoblu to a Champions League finish. The standout performer, however, was the Inter skipper. Lautaro Martinez struck 24 goals to win the title of Capocannoniere for the first time. And, as well as being the league's top scorer, he was also recognised as Serie A's most valuable player. The Coach of the Season award went to the tactical mastermind behind one of Inter's greatest triumphs, head coach Simone Inzaghi. In a season which belonged to Inter, we leave you with the best of the Champions celebrations. Thanks for watching. See you in August.